Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, Jon here to get you pumped as we are. We're pumped for the regular season, aren't we, Jon? We are ready to go. We are both wearing DC kits. The regular season is fast approaching us. Everything is all amazing. But first, before we get into that, Jon, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend?
Ted, I saw Paw Patrol live on Saturday.
Wow.
From the fifth row.
Wow.
So
fifth row.
I had a pretty good weekend. It was exactly what you think it would be. It is a thing that you do that you have to do. She loved it, so it was all worth it from that perspective. But boy, I'm going to remember those songs. I'm going to remember all of that for a long, long time. I was joking. I texted my dad. I was like, this is payback for you taking me to this exact same arena to watch Turtles on Ice, which was Ninja Turtles ice skating. So I think this is fair. I think this is what I deserved.
Yeah.
How about you, Ted?
You know, I think Ninja Turtles on Ice is a much better than Paw Patrol.
For sure. It's like art, really, if you think about it.
I would definitely do that. My weekend was good. I guess past couple weeks, I'm now 33 years old. Turned 33. Had a nice sort of a quiet birthday. The wife is currently disposed and busy preparing for a major exam, so couldn't really do too much, but still got to see family. Had a nice time. So
you and Ted Kudibiatro,
I know, right?
Sharing birthdays.
I know, right? It's like he's destined for greatness. We're both.
It is. You're just a decade ahead of him. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all.
Wild to think about.
You don't even know, man.
Wild to think about. Okay, we had someone in the Reddit comments complain that we talk too much about other stuff instead of getting the team. So,
I think we should talk 30 minutes about it now, just as a punishment, because everyone knows that we talk for a lot before, at the start of the show about nonsense. So
Yeah. No, I think let's see what we got. We got 3 minutes in here. I think we've done.
That's
enough.
sufficient.
That's sufficient nonsense to get in.
That we'll put a note for that Redditor to skip to 3 minutes in the show, and then he can just get there.
We'll DM him specifically to do that. All right, let's talk DC. And DC, oh my goodness, Jon, they've made a major signing, a signing maybe we didn't consider major, and then I think it sort of developed into a major signing. We'll get into that a little bit. DC United, I think the biggest news of the day was the making official. I think it came after the McVay trade, sort of the official announcements, but considering we knew this one was basically a done deal. And apparently it's been in the works for a while. And I think apparently this player was also at the training center. And no one apparently knew who he was or noticed him, which is kind of funny to me in a certain sense. But
I think he was so white that he blended in with the snow that was there still on the ground. So he was just able to be camouflaged.
If you're wondering who we're talking about Matti Peltola, Finnish defensive midfielder / center defender. That's kind of where he played for HGK. We'll get into that into a little bit. He signed as a young designated player, so he is 21 years old, so he counts less against the cap. And also the team still has their 2 remaining U22 initiative slots.
Who was our last young designated player, Ted? Do you remember?
I think it would be Lucho. I'm pretty sure
he young DP.
I think he was a young DP when he first signed. I'm going to go on a limb and say that it might actually be either that. If it's not him, then it was definitely Paul Arriola, because Paul Arriola definitely came in as a young designated player when he came to the team in 2018. So it was either him or Lucho, I would say. Or actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, Lucho was definitely after him, or was before him. So. Therefore, Paul Arriola, last young designated player. So good.
Do you know so I just wanted to say this guy's name. Do you know who the first one was?
Who's the first one?
Raphael.
Oh,
Gladiator.
My goodness.
He was the first young DP. He of the 1 goal against Columbus Crew from midfield.
Midfield goal, and then we never saw him basically again. It was the strangest thing. Man, we've had
He's still playing.
He is. Yeah, I think he's still in Brazil. I think he's still kicking it around. So good for him.
I just really wanted to figure out a way to work a Gladiator mention into the show. If I can ever do that, I want to.
Yeah, absolutely, you should. But let's talk about him. He has played center back. He played center back for HGK. I think the team golf has sort of hinted at he's going to play defensive midfielder. I think he's talked about that as playing him more naturally. I managed to watch him play a little bit. I said I found out he played in the Conference League. I said, oh, there's games on Paramount Plus. Let me see. Oh, here's this game. And I dreamed up some content. So if you want maybe a little bit more specific details, I kind of highlight some of what I saw from him. And everything like that, go to rfkrefugees.com. Scroll down a little bit. Should be one of the first blog posts on there. It's getting rave reviews all over the DC United sphere.
rfkrefugees.com now with 100% less Russian gambling bot infiltration.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry if you got if you saw that a little bit, but no one really said anything, and that was
that's a bad sign for us, Ted.
So it basically inspired me to say we need to drive some more traffic to the website. So that's why
there we go.
So we're going to start doing more writing. We're going to start doing more things like that. We also put it up on our Patreon. So Patreon viewers got it first. But let's John, do you want me to get into maybe some of
I think it's only right, Ted. It's only right. You the man who've actually seen him play.
If you had any opinions of him.
I think I did not realize at the onset that he was a young DP. I thought maybe it was a different situation than that. So that I originally got concerned about that until I was reminded, I think by you, that saying that the only way that we were able to fill the other under 22 spots was to make a young DP and not another overage DP.
Oh.
MLS arcane rules aside,
just a quick clarification because I am a nerd. You can have a young designated player, you can have another overage designated player, but their salary cap hit cannot be above 1.6 million, which is the TAM, basically the threshold to where you can buy the player down with your TAM or designated money, if that makes any sense at all. So yeah,
and 1.6 million is not going to get you the world's best designated player anyway. So let's leave that on its own.
Yeah, and to your point, I think the thinking behind this move and making him a young designated player instead of maybe slotting him into that sort of U22 initiative slot, I don't know if they can maybe, if they see something, if something happens in the summer and they want to switch that around a little bit, whether they can or not. His salary and now that I think about his salary, he was signed as a free agent. So he's getting paid. I would say from his salary, he is getting paid potentially well above that designated player threshold. He might still fall within that, maybe that under that 1.6 million to where he becomes an overage player. They can still use those slots. And I think the reasoning behind making him a young designated player instead of the U22 slots is the simple fact that a U22 player, that you want to kind of save those for when you need to pay a transfer fee, because you are limited in what you can pay them salary wise, but you can spend as much as you want. A transfer fee literally does not compute into the salary cap for the team. So I think that's a shrewd bit of business. I think it makes sense why they're paying him as a young designated player. This is a guy who I think is certainly on the rise on the Finnish national team. He's made multiple appearances. They aren't the cream of the crop when it comes to Europe, that's for sure, but he was attracting a lot of interest over in Serie A and Ligue 1 in France. I think the nature of those moves where, well, we think you're pretty good, but you're kind of unproven. We've got X players that are here before you, so you're going to have to earn your spot over them. And DC was like, look, here, we'll pay you probably more than what those teams are going to pay you. And you get to come here, you're going to have a designated player tag, which basically means that you're going to get a good opportunity. You're basically coming in as the starter for this team. That being said, as to how he plays, he sort of played in a three center back line, at least the game I saw. I think he has sort of shifted into defensive midfield. But this is not like a center back. He certainly has a lot of defensive qualities, but he likes to push forward. And I saw him several times. I have the clips highlighted where he sort of won the ball in the center of the field. He looked to push up, looked to try to make a pass. He also had a couple really nice plays where it's sort of back in the defensive third, where I saw him sort of lift the ball up to sort of spring a counterattack. He also covers a lot of ground. Very, very much one of the top, I think, in the Finnish league as far as covering ground. I saw that in the game against Aberdeen. He was played on sort of the left side, but I think as the team was kind of pressing forward in that game, the team gets caught a little bit, and he covers the right side very well and stops an attack. So I think this is a sort of a bit of a coup. A lot of the the players over in Finland are thought very highly of him. I think it was thought that he was going on maybe to a bigger league in Europe, so they're a little bit surprised that he's coming to MLS.
Our Twitter mentions are funny right now.
It's
a bunch of Finnish people being like, "Your league is trash. You don't deserve him," and everyone else being like, "Who? What? What is this guy?"
Exactly. I left that game against Aberdeen very impressed with him, and I outlined that a lot in my piece. And I think he could be certainly a solid player in the back. Russell Canals had an Ironman season, but I don't think we can expect that again. So I'm very curious to see where this sort of puts him, where Troy Lesesne sort of thinks he fits in now. I think that's maybe the biggest question. I don't know if that caused maybe any sort of riff or concern from Russell Canals. Maybe they can, do I want to start the realty game a little bit sooner full time?
I don't think so. I think he's happy to have another partner in that position. Like he's just got none other. Obviously with Chris Durkin departing, there's no natural pairing for him. There's no, he had an Ironman season, but I'm sure if you asked him, he wouldn't mind being able to rest a little bit, especially as the season gets longer.
Yeah. And to that effect, I think with Russell Canals, very much in number 6, very good defensively, will cover the ball, progressing the ball forward and sort of moving it forward. While he can do it in certain respects, he is not very strong with it. And I think we're getting, from what I saw against in the one game against Aberdeen, again, small sample size, Matty's not afraid to hit a pass. He's not afraid to try to loop the ball forward. There was one moment in the game where he got the ball in midfield and tried to sort of, play a long ball over the top. He's going to have a great partner, a guy who can sort of wrestle those balls down like a center in basketball in Benteke, probably one of the best aerial threats in the league. So I think that's something you could see out of this team. As far as where he plays, again, he played as sort of a third line center back. You're definitely not going to play him in a 2-man center back. It's definitely, if that's where you want to play him. It looks like the team is shifting to a 3-back line, which I didn't think was going to happen, but considering the next player we're talking about and sort of all the depth they're getting there, I'm starting to think we're looking at a 3-5-2 from this team. They
said DC United signed center backs, and then they just spammed it, and they just kept adding more and more defensive players. Like, well, I guess we have our resolution. What we're going to do here,
but in a sense, I think
they needed it back. If you look at the players that left, they were all center backs. So I think it's just a matter of making sure that you are filled up to your complement.
Well, I think if you look at how this team has built the roster this year, Sands, Pirani, and Jared Stroud and Jacob Murrell, they've gone very defensive with this rebuild. I think we're seeing maybe the beginnings of kind of sort of what we saw a little bit from Nashville early in their year, which was we're going to, start to build sort of out of the back, build that foundation in the back. And then we'll go out and we'll find the Hani Mukhtar and bring him in and blow this thing up. So
I was watching some old DC United, some 2023 DC United games again, which is just a cry for help if ever there was one. But I was watching the Red Bulls game, home game, where I believe we lost 5-3 was the final score. And Troy Lesesne saw that. So he's probably like, what we need to do? We need to fix the defense. We really need to do that. That's what we've got to do first.
Yeah, that's the first thing I got to do. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting signing. I think there is some risk involved to it. You are giving a young player who's never played outside of Finland, he's going to have to come in. Also, it's worth adding the climate that he is going to have to integrate himself in DC versus what he experiences in Finland will be very different. So
I was looking for something in the room that was extremely bright red, but I couldn't find anything. So we'll just have to imagine, or just look behind Ted. He'll be that color come July. That's the color he'll be.
Yeah. And we'll see. We haven't had a chance to watch any games, so we really have no idea what
by design. I mean, I saw somebody finally, an MLS reporter, be like, there was an edict that went out to teams to provide less video content from preseason games because of mistakes that were happening, like goalies that were making horrible errors, and they were getting many, many, many hits on that, and it was embarrassing the teams, which I think is baloney. MLR, like every other team in the world has their preseason games covered. It's not like a secret. Everything's not behind closed doors, but MLS is, I guess, so I would say, very controlling of their of the how they're perceived and their media perceptions. So I think it's a bad decision that we have talked about a million times. But it was interesting to me first time to see reporting to say that is intentional. You are not imagining things.
Yeah.
It's not just that they're cheap; it's other reasons too. It's bad PR reasons.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, you've got we talk about the a goal from Trialist too, who I tried to go back and look, and I was just like, you know what, it's not worth it.
It was the draftee.
Yeah.
It was the third round draftee whose name I can't remember. And from now on until he gets signed, he's trialist too. So
Yeah,
that's all there is to it.
it's just I want to sort of back up on that. I feel like MLS makes obviously a mistake every year when they do that, and it's not about who watches, or it's not about how many people watch, I should say.
Which apparently is a couple hundred according to their numbers, which I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For the good teams.
But you know, I will say I listened to Extra Time Radio, and when they were talking about teams, they talked about Dallas. They talked, of course, about Miami,
because they could see them,
because they could watch them and they could see them. And that's kind of my point here. You know, if you're a team that's trying to generate buzz or generate interest, you know, giving, and this isn't about just me or you getting a chance to watch these games. This is about, I think, other sources in the media, you know, where they can look at it and they can, you know, Jacob Merrow's goal happens in front of a stream and Extra Time Radio is talking about it. And then people who listen to that, fans who listen to that, pick that up and they say, you know what, I was thinking about just sitting at home and watching the preseason game, but I'm kind of interested. Maybe I want to go out. I don't know. It just feels like very short-term thinking from the teams. And I wish there was it was a bigger picture look than just who's watching it. And honestly, you literally put Inter Miami out there against Al Nassr and they got waxed 6-0. We'll get into that maybe in a little bit as we get later in the show, but to me, it's just, I don't know, it just feels silly. And I think MLS needs to figure out a way to change it. It's wild to me. It's wild to me that I'm pretty sure like 10, 15 years ago, I was able to watch more preseason related matches than I am today. And it's considering all the advances we've had in streaming and everything like that. It's just wild. All right, next acquisition, maybe a little less exciting. Now the young designated player. They've acquired Christopher McVeigh from Inter Miami. Happened to be in Saudi Arabia at the time, so it was pretty much just probably driving a golf cart around to the DC training facility, or a quick car ride, or maybe a plane ride. I don't know, but
I think they're in the same. I think they're in the same camp. I think they're all in Riyadh.
Yeah. So literally, it was just like I had to think this one was in the works, and they knew it was going to happen. It was just like they probably even told him, they said, "Look, you're going to go to DC here." So
he's like, "But let me please fly over with Messi on the space plane versus the Army cargo plane that you guys flew over, however that got back." So yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah. So $100K in allocation money over to Inter Miami and an international roster slot. So DC is now maxed out on international roster slots. That may come important in the summer if this team is looking to maybe fill those U22 slots. I think it also indicates that I think this team, maybe you see a couple other moves. I would maybe like another move in central midfield, or, you know, hey, maybe you give a run out to Jeremy Garea. But
I think that's what people should start to take away from the way this roster is being built out. I think everything depends on the the overage DP big money slots coming open. I think I don't want to say they're treading water, but they're absolutely going to evaluate the young players that they have. Mm-hmm. I think that's so obvious. The hilarious part's going to be if they all do really well and then they all get the transfer this summer that they all like. If Matti gets the transfer that he was already offered from Villarreal, if Christian Fletcher gets offers and they're so good they got to sell them. They basically like they're like, all right, it's all about the youth. All the youth are gone.
I mean, if those players are out there performing and doing well, I mean, moods can change very quickly as to how this team does. So I think you'll see some of them. I think if I had to guess, I don't know. Mate got the offer. I would say Christian Fletcher's my like breakout, possibly gone. And, you know, we'll see what happens. I think, you know, I'm kind of working on an article, and I think this year is going to be a lot about Teku Pietro. Like, what is his ceiling? We know his floor, but what is his ceiling? Is it going, you know, can he, you know, put together where he maybe starts to gather some interest?
Can he become the secondary scorer that this team has needed since Taxi Funtas left?
Yeah,
because there's been nobody else to do that, and I'd like it to be him. That'd be great if you could see him 7 or 8 goals. Boy,
yeah.
now we're cooking.
We completely just glossed over
That's what he gets.
Glossed over the defender that we got, Christian McVeigh. I do want to say he is from Sweden. So if you're seeing that and say, well, does he take up an international slot? He does not. He has an American passport, so he counts as a domestic player. Helps with center back depth. He's solid. I think he had decent numbers. 2020.
He's super cheap, right? Ted, didn't you look at his salary?
$225,000. So really cheap,
bargain,
really cheap against the cap. Last year of his contract. I mean, if he doesn't work, you're not really having a long-term commitment here. He probably knows that. I'm sure if he plays well, he'll be back. I do want to say though, I do wonder what this means. I've been kind of thinking, we've been hearing a lot of talk about captain from Troy Lesane, how he hasn't decided who on the captain yet. That's interesting because Birnbaum has been sort of the de facto captain of this team for I can't remember. It's been so long. I can't remember when he has been. So it's interesting that maybe they're thinking about going in a different direction. Maybe the idea is that the plan is that, yes, we're going to play Birnbaum sometimes, but the minutes are going to be weaned a little bit for him. He's not going to be a week in, week out starter. What we can say is that the team is looking to sort of play 3 center backs. I was completely I don't think this is going to happen. I think, other people have been talking about it. I'm I don't see it. But now I'm starting to see it a little bit because it looks like they're going to play Herrera in kind of a wide center back role. We'll see how it works.
I think it's funny that the only time you've seen Herrera and Jayadze in the social media stuff is them scoring belters. So it's very funny that all right, wing players, you know what you're really here to do. You're not really here to defend so much. We got 3 center backs to take care of that. We need to see you put the ball in the net and then cross the ball.
I think that might be the case for Yaz. I'm not so sure about Herrera. They seem to be based kind of on the lineup look. They were looking maybe to play him as kind of almost in that center back role, maybe in that kind of that sort of Matti role that we saw from HJK, where he's going to be kind of a little more of a roaming center back.
So who do they have as a right wing back then?
I think I saw Stroud or something like that being talked about as potentially that position.
I guess that's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Seeing him as sort of maybe a sort of right defensive sided player. So we'll see. I mean, again, we have no, we
are reading the chicken entrails, guys. Yeah, there's nothing.
It's really hard to discern the lineups and that we get on Twitter and everything like that. I will say that they do have a game coming up, I believe 1 p.m. Central Time in Dallas. I think that was made official. That will be played at FC Dallas Stadium. That will be open to the public. Don't be shocked if maybe I think Stephen Goff said there was no stream. That is a week before the season starts. We saw last year when they had sort of preseason games that were scheduled in the MLS stadiums, and they were using it as kind of a test bench to sort of walk through, the opening week of the season that was new for Apple TV. So maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just pass it over. But I could see that game being there.
If you're a listener of the show, if you want old United 96 stickers, if you go to the Dallas game and stream it on Facebook Live or Instagram Live, I'll send you some stickers.
Yeah, definitely. Quick hit on the results. They played Sudan, 6-0 win against Sudan. Herrera, Fletcher, Mural, Dahome with 2 goals, and Trialist number 2 with goals. I believe Dahome's were PKs, or at least one of them was a PK. So Mural apparently had the goal of they did show that. So they're showing the good stuff. And then they had a game against Al Wahadi. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that. Again, we're terrible on the show. Goal from Santos in that game. They were down 1. I think Santos off a free kick went and scored a goal. So maybe a little concerned there wasn't a little more offensive output. Ted Pietro also did not play in that game. So
you were playing, no matter who they are. This is your second game of the preseason, you've got I think Benteke is playing 15 minutes. You're their leading goal scorer. I'm more happy with only conceding 1. They've only conceded 1 goal so far. I think that's fantastic. Cool. Interesting that Santos was the free kick taker. Interesting that he interviewed in Portuguese after. I would love to see that. We've talked about this before. Letting players speak in their native language after the game, so they're being like, they feel comfortable and they're getting all of their idioms across, and they're not having to like think 5 ways about it. This is what I want to say, and then having it be translated some way for other folks to understand it. I think that would be really cool if they could figure out how to do that. They did it for that, so I don't know why they can't do it for during the season.
I think it also could open up other players who might be more comfortable speaking English that can come in.
For sure.
Come in and speak. We also have our Leagues Cup group set. Yikes, I think is the word to say it. We have Atlanta United and Santos Laguna.
It's a yikes for sure.
It is certainly a yikes. You excited?
Troy Lisanne was asked about that, and he was like, well, I got out of my group and Red Bull, and I think Santos was in our group there, so whatever. So we'll see. I hope so. I talked about this, I think, on Twitter. Like, I still maintain that I would love to be in CONCACAF Champions League. So Leagues Cup finalist or Open Cup champion are the only 2 ways to get there that I think are feasible for this team. So the Leagues Cup draw did not set us up well for one of those two. Not a great start.
We'll see. I mean, there's a lot. I don't think Santos is certainly kind of mid-table on the Mexican side. There's also been some changes to the format as well. I don't know if you've seen this. I didn't get all into the details you can find elsewhere, but basically they're sort of answering to some of the complaints of the Liga MX side, which is the top teams are basically going to get, it's still in the United States, but they're going to get to kind of choose sort of a hub city where they can basically be the host and they don't have to travel all those games. So probably a smart call, I think, for MLS to do that. I know a lot of people talk about how this tournament should take place in Mexico, whatever it is. I still think this is, I know the stigma it's gotten, it's kind of like you're either a Leagues Cup fan or you're a US Open Cup fan. I am the guy from the video saying you can do both and you should do both, in my opinion. So I like the Leagues Cup. I think it's still a fun tournament. I can understand some people have some maybe some lack of excitement for it. I just like seeing this team go up against, MLS teams go up against Liga MX sides. I think it's a lot of fun. We also got kit leaks. All the basically
low res 480p kit leaks,
right? Coming in through from EAFC, coming through on those kit leaks. So, giving you some of your thoughts. You like the kit? I think
I think it looks kind of in the format that it's in. I'd love to see it in person. It's hard for me to say. There's the continued conversation about what is the deal with the sponsorship on the front.
Yeah, that's been a big one.
I mean, that continues to be sort of confusing. I think I don't recall. I believe they used their game jerseys last preseason, so it had XDC on it. They used their away game, their cherry blossom jerseys in the first game with no sponsor. In the second game, they used training jerseys I've never seen before with the numbers on the front, which looked very cool. I wish they could do that in whatever they can, obviously, but that would be very cool if they could. We'll see what happens in Dallas. I think it would be interesting to see if Dallas is in their like 2024 full game kit because they're at home in front of fans. They might be. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't bought. Did I buy a jersey last year? No, I didn't buy a jersey last year. So it's my first year without purchase, I think.
I bought the cherry blossom kit.
You're wearing it.
I'm wearing
it's happening right now for those listening. Ted is wearing it.
I'm wearing the cherry blossom kit. I think that has been something, and we've heard like different, like, oh, it's still on. Don't be silly. I mean, this is technically the last year of the sponsorship deal. I think I speak for several fans when they would love to sort of do away with the crypto sponsorship.
Out with the crypto and with the drone manufacturers likely the next
likely we'll see what happens. Whether maybe the team can't get a sponsor and then you can pick up a sponsorless kit. So everybody's been.
Well, I just thought of a worse option.
What's that?
I won't speak it into the universe. There's certainly an interested benefactor that may want to get on the front of these jerseys that may or may not have paid for a preseason jaunt for said team.
Oh, geez.
So
yeah,
think about that. Think about that before you get so mad about XDC.
Yeah,
if you got problems with this, you're gonna have problems with that.
Let's hope that you didn't. I think everybody can tell what you're thinking.
Speaking of bad idea genes, let's talk about Inter Miami's World Tour.
I did want to add to the jersey. I've always had an opinion that keep it black You can make it simple if you want. I do like the red on it. I think the red could look cool. Again, I'm curious if the design will come through. The
The
EAFC
waves.
the EAFC sort of polygon, the kits are very high contrast. So I think the last kit, if you look at it, it's got sort of, you can see the sort of stripes, and you can see it on the kit if you look at it. But if you watch it from afar, it just looks black. So yeah, let's talk Inter Miami. Let's talk about this absolute foreseeable disaster. Like I really I will say a lot. If you listen to Total Soccer Show, Extra Time, everybody is talking up about how Inter Miami is, the winners of the offseason. They got Luis Suarez. They've got all this talent. Their talent is both are like on the wrong side of 35. Like they're both like pushing. Some of them are like pushing 40, I believe. Luis Suarez has talked about how like literally like he knows like after his playing days are over, it's going to be difficult for him to move. So
And it looks like it when he runs.
it does. And I mean, I watched a little bit of the game against I think the first one against the other Saudi team, not Al Nasser. I watched a little bit of the Al Nasser game was like over in like 15 minutes. It was basically like that was it. And also they've played a couple preseason games and already there's injury concerns. The biggest controversy now is what happened in Hong Kong.
I would say losing your backup number 10, who was going to have to get a lot of minutes when Messi was on international duty and play. Facundo Farias with an ACL out for the year. Benjamin Kramaski out with a sports hernia for 3 months. Not great. Like they lost 2 of the good young players that have backfill for depth, and now they're already sort of like churning one level lower.
Yeah.
And they're not even through they're not even through a trip. We'll talk about the Hong Kong game because I think that was there's like legal proceedings apparently potentially about to happen.
And like I have to roll my eyes a little bit because I'm like, Messi's hurt. Like, what do you like? You're not going to get them. Whatever legal proceedings you're going to like throw at them, it's not going to be worth risking him.
This isn't Beckham in 2007 where they're like, oh, his ankle has like stitches that are falling out. He's going to play. I don't care. We said he'd play. He'd play. Tato Martinez is not going to do that. He's like, no, I'm not going to do this for a friendly. That's you're not going to get that out of me. And I think so basically from what I understand, so Messi did not play in the game. They got booed off the field. I saw some fan kick a head off of a like an advertisement in the concourse. The Hong Kong government was like demanding he play, and they were saying like it's in the contract. The contract stipulates that he would appear. He appeared. He was in training. He was at the
on
game.
The roster.
He appeared, but there's like some confusion around the contract between the third party and Messi or Inter Miami. So it's just a bad look. Like if this is what's been being said everywhere. It's like if you treat Messi as like a sideshow freak show element where it's like come see the short Argentinian soccer player and wherever you go that's what you're gonna see. There will be times he doesn't play, and every single time it's gonna be like where did it happen last year where they had to offer, it was a Chicago Fire game.
Yeah.
They had to offer tickets to reimburse because he couldn't make it. He's gonna miss games this season. He's old. And he's got international duty. Like people are buying season tickets on the premise of being able to sell that game and make it all up. This is not the way for consumer happiness. There is going to be a lot of tears, and longtime fans of teams in the league are going to kind of like look at these people and not necessarily laugh, but just be like, this is how it goes, man. Sometimes they don't play. You go to see the team. You don't go to see the players.
Yeah, I mean, NBA teams, bad NBA teams deal with it when, LeBron James is supposedly coming and he doesn't play because it's game 40 of a season. And he's like, nope, I'm going to rest. I mean, I just like, also Messi's what, 36, 37. I forget how, this guy is not a young, he can't run anymore. He literally walks the most of the game and then we'll kind of like pick it up and pick his moments. And we saw that and it was amazing. And incredible. So I don't know. It's a tough situation. I don't know how much teams can do. I would impress upon people to like not to spend money just to go see Messi play. I think that the KC maybe got it the most right in where they moved the game, and they moved the game to Arrowhead Stadium. to make it at least somewhat reasonably priced. We still don't. I don't know if we have tickets yet for DC. I'm sure they're going to be expensive, cost of season ticket level type of expense. So, yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's a bad situation. I think the roving tour that they went on, I think they maybe could have gone on to one location, and maybe that would have been Saudi Arabia and done preseason there, and then maybe you
fly to us. Come to me.
But to do El Salvador, then to do Saudi Arabia, then to do Hong Kong, then to do Japan, and then also then to, oh, by the way, we're also going to roll into Argentina for his new, like,
it's a home. Isn't that game in Miami or Fort Lauderdale?
Oh, you might be right.
Yeah, it's a home game.
It's a home game,
but still,
I mean, the and also, like you talk about too, the injuries they've had to those players, like that's what's going to happen. Like, and those types of players, Messi, Suarez, any, Jordi Alba, Busquets, if they feel something, they're going to let you know, because they know if they're healthy, they're going to play. Is a guy like Kermansky, who's, trying to make his way in the side. He feels a little off, but he's like, you know what? I need to go out there and play, because if I don't, then I might lose my spot. And I think that's where you're going to get into some problems, particularly with this trip.
And he's he's a youth, he's a under 21 player for Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to he wants to make sure that he's on the field, Messi's on the field, so those eyeballs are on him. So the sports hernia is not quite as bad as an ACL tear that Farias had, but it's still, if that happened, that would be very similar to Ted Cudipietro having a sports hernia because
please do not put that into the world.
I am knocking on all of the fake wood here. It's not going to happen. We have
he
done
did not
all of
play
our
last
sports
game,
hernias.
so I already got a little bit of a nervousness.
We have done all of our sports hernias for 2 lifetimes here at RFK over the years.
Fair enough. All right, we got some questions over here from Richard Rolson. Let's get into them to close out our DC United talk. It says, what positions would you like to see DC acquire before the start of the regular season? I'll say it out front. I think maybe we see one player. I would see central midfield, defensive side, either defensive side or maybe, back up as sort of an 8 for Matthias Klick. Maybe you see, but I think the team is done. I think they're going to roll out. I think you're going to see some minutes from Jeremy Correa. I think you're going to see some minutes from Jackson Hopkins. You're going to see some minutes, obviously, from Muriel, their draft signing. I think this team wants to see what they have, like you said, in the young players. I think this will be pretty much it, as far as the season goes, for at least the January window, and then they reevaluate in the summer.
That's right.
Anything else you want to add there, or do you?
That's right. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that they hired Troy Lesesne because he can get a lot out of young players, and that's what they have. So that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we also didn't talk about Gabriel Pirani in the South American pre-Olympic tournament. I believe they played today. I did not check their score. And I know the games are on FS2. He did have a goal. He got a goal. And then he started against Venezuela, and they got waxed 3-1. So remains to be seen with him. Remains to be seen what we'll get out of him. I'm a little nervous. I sort of wish Brazil had fallen out and he was kind of back with the team and able to maybe assimilate a little bit. But the team seems to want him there. I think they view him as somebody, if it doesn't work out, he's probably going to be in the Olympics. And if he has a good tournament, because tournaments are weird, then you'll see him maybe go in the summer. I could see that happening.
I feel like you've signed him to the contract. You've signed him. I think he's going to be a major piece. I think they would, in a perfect universe, like to have had him there. I think Lesesne would have liked to have had his hands on him to see where he's going to fit in, because we're just real, like I said, and like you said, we are just wild ass guessing in the dark with formation choices, with where players are comfortable playing. We're just guessing. Soon we'll be able to make informed guesses.
Yeah,
but I
soon
think
we'll see the starting lineup at opening day,
and then we'll have a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
Hayden Sargis is starting. We did not see that coming. Surprise!
He had a banger of a goal in training.
He did.
Second question: with the squad DC United currently has, what formation do you think Troy Lesesne will utilize? I think we talked about this. We think it's going to be a 3-5-2.
Yep.
I think we're going to see, and I think it's a question of is Herrera out there on the right?
I think he is.
Yeah. So, and they also, I think they also have they have an academy kid. I believe one of the trialists is an academy kid who also plays out in that wing back position. Maybe we'll see him make some appearances.
Graham Jones, right?
Yep, Graham Jones. So By the way, I think we should mention good, interesting interview that I guess Troy Lesane had with the academy. So I think the teams may be looking to grow that connection a little bit. All right, we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk Washington Spirit now a little bit. We've got not a whole lot of news, not a whole lot of information.
I was on the press conference today, so I have a little bit that'll sprinkle in through the show.
Sprinkle in. The only thing we know players going out. I have to say, it is strange that I am more confident about DC's current state of their roster than I am right now with the Washington Spirit. Mostly because I just so many players have gone, and I just feel like there hasn't been a whole lot of additions in. You can disagree with me if you want, but that's kind of how I feel right now.
Me?
Yes.
I can disagree with you?
Yes.
I don't disagree with you. I think Casey Kruger is a good right back. That'll be great. I think Saar will be maybe better in her next year at left wing. I'll say today in the press conference that Trinity was very excited about the young players, sort of unprompted, sort of saying that she was impressed how quickly it seemed like these players knew what they were doing and how they were developing chemistry. Do they always say that? Yes. Did they say that last year about the draft picks, almost none of whom contributed in a major way? They did. That's what you do. But she did say that unprompted. So there is that.
Yeah. They had goodbye messages to Marissa Shiva and Amber Brooks. Certainly Amber Brooks will forever live in meme NWSL lore for her double middle fingers over to the
after scoring a goal in that game too, by the way.
After scoring a goal into that game over to the assistant. I think, did she get a one match suspension?
She did. All worth it.
All worth it. Upset about the fact that it was called a corner kick and not a throw in when she was trying to kick it out. So very sad to see her leave. I think she was in Chicago. I think she's on like a preseason roster there. So
good. She'd be a great fit there. I think that's good. They're trying to really rebuild that. It'll be hilarious if the center back pairing is Sam Staub and Amber Brooks.
Yeah.
In Chicago, which it might be.
Interesting that the team didn't extend a contract. I mean, I guess center back is right now the main concern here because you got rid of Sam Staub. You have Tara McKeown, who is
still a defender that is verified. She's calling herself a center back now. Mm-hmm. When asked what is your position, she says defender. So that's progress. It's like the wheel of like dealing with trauma, like the denial, acceptance, grievance. She's in the acceptance phase now.
Yeah. So so she'll be there. But other than that, I'm like, I don't know what else this team really has, and it's.
I think that until the summer happens, similar to DC United, they are going to see what they have with the first round draft picks that they were able to acquire. They're going to have, a lot of games. Jana Heraldez is not going to be there until the end of La Liga season, or whatever they call. Is it called La Liga as well? La Liga Feminine, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, it's not called that. It's called something else, but I can't think of what it is. Yeah.
But Barcelona. So that I think it'll be interesting to see what they have out of that. Corey Bethune, I think, is going to be immediately looked at. Chloe Ricketts is going to be immediately looked at. They're the stressing going on now from like a skill build. It's all very early, obviously, but they're talking very much about how do they attack? How do you win 1-on-1s? How do you handle close pressure and dribbling out of it without turning it over, with being smart? She's like, they said, Trinity said, we know we can win direct. We know we have the skill set to play direct, but we also want to be able to do this. And she said, like, there was a question sort of about style. She's like, it's Barcelona, man. Like, like it's that there's a style of play that's about like, all right, I'm going to pass it to this person. We're going to make sure that we feed this person the ball and something happens. But Barcelona, it's about, we're going to play soccer. We're all going to try to, it's about a collective unit. We're going to all make those plays. We're all going to move off the ball. We're all going to make these good passes. So early days, obviously the message is being filtered down that we have high expectations, but I agree with you generally that this is going to be a similar to DC United, like a see what we got here in the youth and then reapprise in the summer.
Yeah, and I guess in DC's case, I'm more for that. In the Spirit's case, I'm like, the youth, the talent is here. It's here and ready. We should be better than we are, and I think that's what a lot of people are struggling. This feels like almost like they've committed to a rebuild when maybe it wasn't time for a rebuild. But
when they're keeping still an Ashley Hatch and Andy Sullivan and Aubrey Bledsoe and a Trinity Rodman under contract, yeah, it's a bit of they're definitely caught in between. It's a weird build. But then again, if you think about the fact that they've had 5 coaches in 3 years,
yeah.
it makes sense that there's not been a cohesive identity or a plan. I asked that question. I said, this is the first time you're going to have a coach with a 3-year contract, a coach that's a worldwide, world-renowned, in-demand coach that they paid or would have paid a large fee to free from his contract. So you have a really good expectation that you're going to have the same environment for a couple years. How much are you looking forward to that? And they're like, yeah, it's been chaotic. It will be nice to sort of, establish that, know what to expect. Also not have to keep proving yourself every single year to the coach, who then may have new ideas about, Terry McKeown style. Like, I think you go here now. Like, so there would be an opportunity for the coach to be someone that they knows who they are. I think that there's a huge value in that. Think if you every time at your job you had a new boss every year, that would suck. You would hate that. So yeah, I think the players are ready for that as well.
Yeah, I would hope they would be. So we also have the schedule come out. A lot of great videos.
Really, seriously. DC and MLS in the mud, NWSL really they did this wonderfully, I thought.
Yeah, a lot of creativity there. First match will be March 16th at Seattle Reign. Home opener will be against Bay FC on March 23rd. Final game November 2nd, so the season runs from March to November. June 29th, I highlighted, they will be at home against North Carolina Courage. That is the Ashley Sanchez return game. So
there you go, revenge game. You mean?
I want to see that. EAFC also with a jersey leak. It is yellow. It's yellow.
It's like antifreeze.
It's yellow. I hate this. I don't.
If there's ever a jersey I would not buy, Ted, it's this one. Yeah. I think you could put a line of jerseys in front of me. The last one,
and that's the frustrating part. Is like I've been wanting to buy a Spirit jersey, but I just haven't. There hasn't been a Spirit jersey that's come out that I've said I have to own this. Like I didn't want to buy the one last year. I'm like, well, they're going to change. They're going to rebrand. So I want to wait till that rebrand. Now I'm seeing the rebrand, and I'm like, I just don't even want to like black and yellow could be. I guess my problem with black and yellow is. It's already associated with like Columbus. It's associated with Pittsburgh.
The Steelers.
Like it's associated with like sort of, hardworking, Midwest. I know Philly's not Midwest.
Yeah, Iowa. Yeah.
Like those types of areas.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really associated with DC. And I know I'm not saying you need to make it red, white, blue. DC's black and red. I'm not even saying you have to make it black and red. I'm just saying I just don't. I don't like this. I don't like that it seems to me like it was going to be I thought it was going to be a rebrand and a name change. Now it's kind of like you're just like shoehorning a black and yellow color scheme on a name and logo that wasn't originally designed for that.
Well, they're not done. So the latest reporting is that this is not the rebrand. The rebrand is still to come in another year. So this could be another placeholder. They could go with, this could be 1 year of yellow. They could completely rechange the name, the crest. They could go full out. I would not put that past them.
Yeah.
I would not. A yellow jersey out of nowhere that's this color is a perfect palate cleanser to then get to what you really want. Like, because everyone's going to be, you're either going to love this or you're going to hate this. And I think most people are going to dislike it. So
yeah,
I'm ambivalent about it.
Yeah, I don't like it, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe it'll grow on me. Maybe they'll win some championships. Maybe they'll come out with a really cool kit.
Yeah, maybe
we'll see.
I didn't think so in 2019 or whatever that was. So who's to say?
Let's touch. I want to touch on this. I want to touch on this a little bit because I think there is some spirit. I think Trinity Rodman was asked about this.
She was. It was great.
The Lindsay Horan interview, and I think the biggest one is we'll talk about knuckleheads like us that host a podcast. American soccer fans, she said in an interview, most of them aren't smart. They don't know the game. They don't understand. He said, but it's getting better. Kind of a hard. I feel like she was like, this is going to piss some people off, but like,
that was not. I mean, read the whole interview. I implore. I think that the one that should have gotten quoted more, and then kind of is like the second most quoted thing, is that like people just take whatever the announcers say as what it was.
Yeah, and
like her mom would say, "You played great," and she's like, "I played like S. I don't even know what game you watch." So like, I think there is. Continue, but I want to comment on that. But there's more quote. Read the rest of the quote.
Yeah, well, the rest of it, from what I've heard, people understand the game a little. I think she was talking about France, sense of football, the way we play. It is the French culture. Everyone watches football. People know football, and I think that's I will say, I don't agree entirely with her comment. I think there are, and this is something I've been frustrated with a lot, as as I am still hulking around Twitter as kind of this, even though it's a massive trash fire, and the people that I see getting boosted, the ones that are paying for that are clearly paying for Twitter, the anonymous USMNT fans and other people out there that really are like, I mean, I've never been I've always been somebody, I've had my moments with Orlando fans, but I don't make that my primary.
That's not your personality.
That's not my personality. I always try to be analytical about the game. I wrote a whole piece about Matti being like, I want to get better at this side of the game. I want to learn, how to analyze a player, how to scout a player, how to analyze games and stuff like that. And I feel like there are people out there that they don't care. They're just out there to troll. There's people on MLS who do MLS stuff, and I get so frustrated because there are so many good people out there that are doing really, really good stuff that, are breaking down games, analyzing it, and really presenting really thoughtful content. And it's just getting drowned out now by these people that it doesn't. Greg Berhalter could go and win the World Cup in 2026. It doesn't matter. They still think he's an awful coach, and he's holding the USMNT back, even though they've played some of the best soccer, and in some cases, when the full 11's out there, some of the best soccer. And I will say, one thing that bugs me is the amount we sort of rake Berhalter over friendly games, and we talk about, well, Berhalter hasn't gotten a win, and I'm like, it's a bloody friendly. It's an exhibition match. Like he's trying some different things. He's experimenting. That's when you want to do that. You don't want to do it in a game against Mexico in the Nations League final, but you do it a little bit in see what some players have. Anyway, I read this and I think there are some smart people. I think the dumb people are even some people in the media that are getting drowned out by some really thoughtful commentators. And it's kind of a shame that that's the media landscape we live in.
Yeah, I think Steph Yang wrote wrote an article about the article in The Athletic that I think everyone should read. And it talked sort of about she has some good points. She has some points that she probably wishes she didn't make. And she has some things that are wrong. And I think that the thing she said most about it is that U.S. soccer culture is in formation. It's in development. It's not something that we were born with. It is different. It is uniquely American. And she brought out the pictures, the pre-match pictures where people are doing goofy pictures for the picture before the match. I am also old. So I understand like cranky old people, Lindsay Horan, saying like, this is silly. I don't think we should do this. I understand that. Like I honestly do get it, because it's something that no one else does, right? So that you normally judge yourself by comparison. You look around the world, particularly when you are a young culture. You're like, well, if nobody else does it, that means we're doing it wrong. The flip side of that is to say there are many players that come to America because our culture is different, because they can walk around, because they can go to the grocery store with their kids, because their life isn't ruined the rest of the week because they lost a midweek game in the middle of the season, not even anything that really decided anything. They're able to just live a life. So I think if you are constantly evaluating yourself based on the rest of the world that has been involved and made this game more central to their existence than you all the time, you're gonna always sort of self-negate the things that are different about you. You're gonna think they're bad. But if you instead look at this as an attribute, that you don't have the baggage of 100 years, you don't have the potentially NFL sized over importance that you've placed on yourself in the culture because of just how everything is, and you're able to have more fun and enjoy it and be able to try new things. I think it's a good thing. I think that only benefits you in the long run. It attracts young people to your sport. I understand completely Lindsay Horan's comments. Like, I can see the truth in them. I can also see how they're being interpreted and how those people are right. I think that people just calling her Carly Lloyd 2.0, I think, are missing the point a little bit. I think kind of like rope-a-doping into her point a little bit by doing that. I think it's like a whoopsie. But I want to let you comment, but then I want to let you know what Trinity said about it.
Yeah, I mean, I the comments, I don't like the comments, I guess, about this current crop, this current team. I feel like I feel like Lindsay Horan is coming from a place maybe where she was there. She was at the World Cup. I feel like her place, I maybe put a little more credence in maybe what she has to say. I don't think she's coming from the you know, from the Carly Lloyd side of the fence. Carly Lloyd, I think had some huge beef with one player in particular, and I think she used it to color her entire narrative, and also has used it, I think, in a lot of sense to pretty much sort of build herself up as
She's created a media career. She's done the Alexi Lawless thing where she realizes that just like those Twitter accounts you don't like on Twitter, that engagement is engagement,
yeah,
regardless of the engagement.
and she gets it, and the best way to do it is just to ignore it, and hopefully they go away. Honestly, you engaging with them is yeah, and we're talking about her, so I mean it is what it is.
It worked again. She got another nickel. So Andre asked this question. Andre of the Hey Spirits podcast, and I think also the District Press. He is extremely comfortable asking the uncomfortable question, which is, good on him. I think we all thought it. I think he asked it at the end of the press conference. He said, I'm not going to ask you to comment on her on these quotes, but what do you think about these pictures and sort of the fun around them? And do you think, what do you think about them? And Trinity just said, they're not going anywhere. We're goofy. We're going to have fun out there. We're going to enjoy ourselves. She said, I respect her opinion, and I think that they're certainly valid for her to do those things. I think that you can do both. I think you can have fun and you can be serious. The pictures aren't going to change the way we play. And honestly, like, that is, in its simple distillation right there, is that, like, so Lindsay Horan sees those pictures as a signifier of unseriousness. And then if you took a step back and heard Trinity say it, quite obviously, you've trained all week, you take a goofy picture, then you go play. It's not like you forgot your game plan.
It's like, we take this goofy picture. We don't serious. No, I
forgot everything. I don't care about. I'm not competitive now. Like, it is just it's like appearance versus practical. And I think in that way, Lindsay's wrong about the pictures, because it's just about, she doesn't want to be embarrassed. She doesn't want to be different. She wants it to be like everywhere else, so that no one can point and say that they're a joke.
But my biggest problem, and this is actually where I respect her opinion because she was there. Much more than Carly Lloyd. Carly Lloyd was not in the locker room. I think she's been commenting from afar. Lindsay Horan was there. I understand. I feel like sometimes there are those people that how they play is they play with that type of energy of like seriousness and emotion.
Yep.
And they also but they can't imagine playing or being any other that way. When you go, like, soccer is no different. It's different than your day job, but generally when you go to a job and you are happy, engaged, you're joking and laughing with your workmates, you're probably going to do better because you're in a better mood, and mood sometimes plays a role for certain players in making it more fun. It's the Ted Lasso scene with the captain who was like miserable, and he drags him out to a indoor game and is like, hey man, have fun. This is a kid's game. Enjoy it. And he plays well. So again.
And the converse of that is to look at a player like Ryan Giggs, or look at a player like, who else am I thinking from Man United? Roy Keane, not Ryan Giggs. Roy Keane is the player I'm thinking of specifically, which is, I think, also who Roy Keane was based on, which is the whole point of a grumpy guy. But like some players, to your point, I think it's different in the men's game, right? Because I think the default in the men's game is seriousness. Mm-hmm. So you're able to function as like basically a psychotic, like a hyper competitive, like miserable person. You're able to function in that environment because the baseline is just like, we're not playing any games here. And if that's who you are, and then you go into the Spirit, and the Spirit are, as Trinity said, a goofy team, you're just going to feel like you don't fit in. You're going to feel like this is not the place for me. Like, I like these people, but I'm just wired differently. So it makes sense that she sees it that way. And it also makes sense that everyone else says, somehow I'm able to be Trinity Rodman and now the second most highest paid player in the NWSL and be successful and play for the national team and be goofy and take my fit pics on the way into the game and do Instagram lives and all the things that I do. So I think it's age. I think it's just culture you come from, and then also how you're wired and how your hyper competitiveness manifests. Because obviously Trinity Rodman is also hyper competitive. She wouldn't be where she was if she wasn't.
And you watch her on the field.
It all comes out differently, right?
You watch her on the field. She's extremely competitive, and I think she fights when she gets on that field for sure.
Can be goaded into red cards based on her competitiveness. It certainly it can happen.
Yeah. Oh man. Bad memories.
I just thought about that during the press conference. I was like, should I ask about her not being able to be on the field for the first game?
She's not going to be on the field for the first game.
Wow. I didn't feel yet. It's my first press conference of the offseason. I did not quite have my confrontational boots on yet, so I decided I was literally wearing slippers. I was like, I don't feel ready to do this.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode of RFK Refugees. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, check us out, patreon.com/RFK Refugees. A lot of y'all like the content I wrote, so we're going to continue to try to provide it. I don't know if I thought about a Christopher McVay scouting piece, but I don't think there's really much to write. Then I could write about our young designated player. So sorry, but we'll get some other content out there for you guys. We're going to go back to, we're definitely going to do some more of the Patreon shows, I think.
I've got a writing assignment for you, Ted.
What's that?
I want you to go back and watch Pirani games last year and see who's right. Is it the people that think he sucks, or the people who think he's great?
John, that is an actual idea I had for a piece.
Mm-hmm. That's a free one
for a piece. I just finding the time.
No, for sure. And also you have to watch, like I'm doing, of your own accord, 2023 DC United game. That's punishment.
Yeah. Also, I was planning on actually maybe writing a piece about him against Venezuela, but they got waxed 3-1. I was like, that's not gonna be a fun piece.
It was a short piece.
That'd be a fun piece to write. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week, maybe. Who knows? It'll be next week or 2 weeks. Sooner or later, we're going back to weekly, guys. Don't worry. But we're still in preseason mode. We'll see what the news dictates. And we'll catch you guys later. Vamos.
Thank you for listening to RFK Refugees Podcast. Make sure you rate and review the show wherever you download podcasts. If you want to support the show, consider joining our Patreon or subscribing to our channel on Twitch. Lastly, make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, Twitch, Goals.tv, Friendster, MySpace, and Tumblr. Some of those are even real. Vamos.